Welcome into Writer's Block on this fine Wednesday from Los Angeles, California. I'm Bill Reiter. Thank you for spending some time with us. We're a few hours away from the official release of the NFL schedule for the upcoming season. Will Brinson's going to jump on the show to give us a few tidbits that have leaked out about the schedule. We're going to visit with him about some other topics from around the NFL. Jamal Murray went into beast mode. We're going to give him the credit he deserves. And the most underrated player in the NBA gets the shine he deserves, at least on this network, in just a moment. Remember when the Oklahoma City Thunder were the star-studded team that if maybe weren't going to beat the Warriors, at least give them possibly a run for their money? Well, right now the Portland Trail Blazers, as you probably know, are up 2-0 in that series, and they are dominating because they have the best player on the floor day in, day out between those two squads. It's not Paul George. It's not Russell Westbrook and his triple-doubles. It's Damian Lillard, the most underrated superstar in the NBA, who took a firm hand and handle on that series and made it his own and Portland's own through sheer excellence. This is a guy that never gets the credit he deserves. And you talk to people around the NBA, if you talk to players, if you talk to GMs, parlor game for me on this show and in private conversations is asking, who's the most underrated player in the game from the casual fan? And the answer is often, I would say usually it's Dame. It's Damian Lillard. Part of the reason is it's on the West Coast, Portland, small market. It's a long ways from some of the other major cities. And as much as I love the city, it is universally considered the hardest place to recruit to in the country, which makes, for the NBA, which makes the Dame story that much better, that much more interesting. Damian Lillard, every single year, is one of the closers, one of the killers, one of the great offensive weapons, and underrated defensively in the NBA, and he is putting on the Thunder right now. We got a few examples of this guy's excellence. If he were a Knick, if he were a Laker, if he were playing with some superstar equal to his own greatness, he would be talked about all the time on the level of a Westbrook, of a Harden. I'm telling you, the guy is that good. Here he is with a nonchalant, long three-pointer to start the process of Portland pulling away in that third quarter. And really, what a shot. What range. And just so chill. And really pulling away in the series. And the thing about Lillard is he's highlight capable. He will make moves. He will make plays that make your jaw drop if you watch enough Trailblazers games. Ask Raymond Felton, who was a victim last night, as you can see right here. This move is sick. It is beautiful. It makes Felton look like an octogenarian. We're talking about a guy in Damian Lillard. And I think CJ McCollum's a really nice player. But the star power, theoretically, is Westbrook and it's Paul George. They were the favorites coming into the series, even though they're the lower seed, and Damian Lillard has turned that on its head too. Vegas doesn't get things wrong very often. They're getting this series wrong because everyone overlooks Lillard. Not just his sheer talent, but that's there. Not just the chip on his shoulder, that's always been there. This is a guy who studies his game, who is absolutely locked in on what it takes to win basketball games and be the best version of himself, something he talked about after the win.
Few years deeper into the league, and I recognize stuff faster. I know what's coming. I know what guys like to do. I'm not watching film to see highlights of myself. I'm watching film to how can I take advantage of the other team? How can I give myself a chance to play better against the other team? And a lot of that is defensively.
That's the duo right there that you're looking at that really matters. These are the guys who are dominating the series. Let me dive a little deeper into this. Lillard is a career 36.8, 37% three-point shooter. It's pretty good. The dude is 9 of 19. That's 47% on threes in this series because he steps up in big moments. Oklahoma City in this series, shooting 16% on threes. They weren't a great three-point shooting team this year, but they shot twice as good in the regular season. They're getting owned by Lillard and by his teammates. And in particular, Russell Westbrook has been utterly and totally owned by Lillard. Lillard's been all over him, been crushing him. Just a few numbers for you. Westbrook in these two games, his box score plus minus, minus 37. He's shooting 35%, Russ, from the field. He's 1 of 10 on threes. I know he's not a good three-point shooter, but 1 of 10, I'm good at math, 10%. He has 38 points on 37 shots, and a lot of that is because Lillard has owned him. Look at this moment right here. This is just, it's the epitome of Lillard's aggression, of his competitiveness, and you can see it. He's literally forcing Westbrook onto the ground. His defense pushing Westbrook to his knees, and then he's not backing down. The dude is legit. And all the nice words about the rivalry between Westbrook and Lillard is just noise. It's just, what does George R. R. Martin say? What did Game of Thrones say? Words are wind. Lillard is dominating this thing, and McCollum did his best at the podium and talk about the rivalry to not just come out and say straight up, my guy is dominating their guy.
Two pit bulls, man. You got two competitive guys who play hard, who are, well-known, all-stars, faces of their franchises, and the stakes are high. So, if you're a competitor, you look forward to these moments and these opportunities to not only put yourself on the map, but put your team on the map.
Let's be honest, it's one pit bull and Russell Westbrook who's getting known. That's the thing about sports. It isn't about feelings. It is about what you want to be true. It's not rainbows and puppy dogs. It's grown men trying to dominate other grown men. And right now, Lillard is dominating Westbrook. And the result, Portland is dominating Oklahoma City. 5 of 20, Russ, that's not the performance you put up if you're the face of your franchise and you want to win this series. The Lillard-Westbrook rivalry is a real thing. And right now, Dame has proven, and I said this on the radio show before the series, I would take Damian Lillard if I had to pick from both these teams, one guy in a playoff series, Damian Lillard over Paul George and Westbrook in a heartbeat. And that's despite the fact that Paul George named himself, Playoff P? Is that what it was? Few fun facts for you. In his career, Paul George is 1 of 15 in fourth quarter shots with less than 10 seconds left. Not exactly clutch. He had never hit a buzzer beater in his career until he became a member of the Oklahoma City Thunder. And there's a weird fall-off that happens with PG that people around the NBA are starting to talk about. Pre-All-Star game, the guy scores about 21 points per game, shoots about 39% on threes. Post-All-Star game, he's down to 18.5 points per game, and his three-point shooting drops 5 percentage points. It's a bizarre deal. In fact, PG has averaged 23.6 points per game against the Trailblazers over his career. That's the most of any team in the NBA, along with the Jazz, and yet he's fading. And this is the thing about playoff basketball. Who will step up? Which team has the best player on the floor on any given night? If you have that guy, you can win that series. It does not belong to the Thunder and Paul George, not right now. It does not belong to the Thunder and Russell Westbrook. And I slept on this, and I made the mistake I shouldn't have made. I bet on the Thunder. I thought they were going to win the series. There was great odds on Portland because Damian Lillard is the best player on the floor in this series. Chip on his shoulder. Doesn't matter. Yusuf Nurkic out. He's going to get it done. You got to rely on guys like Canner. He's going to get it done. Going up against Russ and Paul George, he's going to shut down the guy that he's guarding. He's going to score on him. Damian Lillard, sports fans, you know this if you pay attention, one of the most under-heralded guys in the NBA, and we're not going to make that mistake on this show anymore. Portland is dangerous because they've got a superstar. If he doesn't get the credit he deserves, he certainly carves his name on the playgrounds and on the arenas and on the floors he competes in. The guy's the real deal. Love Damian Lillard. Felt good to do a little sports fan Valentine for a guy who deserves it out here on the West Coast. All right, Will Brinson coming up in a few minutes. Give us his perspective on the NFL, releasing their official schedule a few hours from now. We'll have a show for you, 8:30 Eastern, right here on CBS Sports HQ. Brinson hosts the Pick Six podcast. We'll hit Russell Wilson. We'll talk some NFL. Will Brinson joins me on the show in just a minute. All right, welcome back into Los Angeles, California. I'm Bill Reiter. This is Reiter's Block. From some NBA to some NFL. We're a few short hours away from the NFL schedule officially being released. And to satiate our need for some NFL news and conversation, my very talented colleague Will Brinson joins me right now on the program. Will, thanks for making time, buddy.
Always a pleasure, Bill. Thanks for having me. I love New York. It's a great city, but I gotta say, the new backdrop fits. I like the new backdrop. It fits you well.
I'm digging. Look, the weather's great here. Life is good, and we're starting to get some NFL news. Sounds like on Sunday, Patriots, Steelers, that Sunday night game. What do you make of the opener? What do you make of some of the scheduling news that's leaking out right now?
Yeah, a couple of interesting points, and obviously all these things leak out as we sort of get closer to the 8 p.m. grand 2-hour unveiling. I think we'll have a CBS Sports HQ schedule show from 8 to 8:30 as well, which you can watch on this very online network, streaming, etc. I would say when you look at Steelers-Patriots, what really interests me is that you're putting a very pivotal AFC matchup in primetime on Sunday night in week one. I mean, we've seen the Steelers and the Patriots match up late in the season each of the last 2 years. It typically has a large effect on how you end up, how the AFC ends up shaking up and how home field, comes into play. It's a kind of a dagger for the Steelers, especially as they incorporate a lot of new personnel. No Antonio Brown, no Le'Veon Bell. Be cool to see their new look. It also is interesting. You see the Browns twice on there. That means that the Browns and the Patriots, I'm not in the meetings. I don't know who wanted to save what games for later, but it's interesting to me that the Browns and Patriots are being saved perhaps 4:25 Eastern, one would presume, on a very popular eye-centric network. We'll see officially. Steelers, Jets there, of course, you have as well. And then Browns, Jets, week 2 on Monday night. Yes, please. That looks like a fantastic game. Two other games that I would note that are really interesting. Chiefs and Chargers will play in Mexico at one point this season. And don't forget that, as we get closer to the NFL draft, the Cardinals and Giants will be playing. We don't know what the Cardinals are going to do with Kyler Murray. We don't know what they're going to do with Josh Rosen. We do know that the Giants would at least be interested in one of those two guys. And if we got that sort of Rosen-Murray matchup, that would be quite the little scintillating matchup.
Well, obviously, we'll be glued to CBS Sports HQ. We'll be watching the show tonight as the schedule gets released and analyzed. How much can fans really read into the tea leaves of what's to come in the upcoming NFL season when they have the exact schedule, they know the dates, they know the opponents, they know the locations, when they have that in hand?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that look, the reality is that we already know who the teams are playing. I mentioned the Giants and the Cardinals. We know they're playing in New York, at some point in the season. For whatever reason, I think the psychological aspect of having the schedule down on paper makes it easier to sort of pencil in fans' minds what they're going to see. And you can sort of run through the schedule as opposed to sort of running through the opponents in a vague sort of way. It is important too, right? Like where your bye ends up landing. Players prefer a bye in the middle of the season to give them, the maximum amount of rest time. Teams prefer that too. How many primetime games do you have? That matters for these teams. What sort of, when will one fan's team be traveling to maybe a historical venue like Lambeau Field so they can plan a trip and go check it out? I think all of that matters for fans. And certainly, as we sort of analyze how these teams are going to do, you can look at certain aspects of the schedule and say, all right, this is going to be a challenge because hypothetically, the Redskins are going to play 3 games in 10 days, including a trip to Dallas on Thanksgiving, et cetera, et cetera. We get to put the meat on the bone when it comes to that holiday schedule, figure out what teams are going to be playing on Thanksgiving and sort of analyze that as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think it does make a difference, even though we already know as of right now what teams will actually be playing.
All right, so we're not that far removed from Russell Wilson becoming the highest paid quarterback in NFL history, at least in terms of per year dollars. What was your initial reaction? What's your reaction been since to that contract between Seattle and their quarterback?
Well, a couple thoughts. One, you don't have to do it at 3:45 in the morning. That's not nice to anybody who lives on the East Coast. 2, weird video. Who sleeps in chains? As I told you on the radio, Bill, it just seems like a health hazard. And then 3, I think it's a good deal for both parties. I mean, look, as much money as will be attached to Russell Wilson for the next 5 years, and as much as Seattle spent, remember, this is a middle ground. This is not Russell Wilson coming into the facility, holding Pete Carroll and John Schneider hostage and getting every single thing he wanted. I mean, he did get a lot of what he wanted. He became the highest paid player in NFL history, the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. He exceeded Aaron Rodgers by every metric you would even concern yourself with, whether it's average annual value, fully guaranteed money, signing bonus, whatever it is you want. He is the number 1 paid quarterback in the NFL for as long as, until the next quarterback gets an extension, probably, whether it's Carson Wentz or Dak Prescott. But this is not a terrible deal for Seattle. We always hear that these quarterbacks want to change shift the paradigm with which we construct these contracts. They want to attach a percentage of the salary cap. They want to do year-by-year options, a la LeBron James and Kevin Durant and all those guys. That didn't happen here, and that's a big win for the Seahawks. They were able to keep sort of the parameters and the precedent in place with how they build out contracts. They were able to lock down Russell Wilson on a deal that is expensive, but not outrageously gaudy. I mean, it's $35 million a year in new money. It's a ton of money, but it's just kind of the cost of doing business. And they've locked themselves into having a franchise quarterback from now until he's 35 through the 2023 season. They're in very good shape for the long haul, as long as John Schneider and Pete Carroll can continue to identify talent on the defensive side of the ball and fill out that roster at a cheaper cost with those rookie deals.
All right, a few draft questions, Will, before I let you run. Who's the, for Will Brinson, who's the top pass rusher in this upcoming NFL draft?
Great question. I would go with Nick Bosa if I was picking someone. Look, I mean, I think this has sort of been lost in all of the draft shuffle, and we can blame Kyler Murray and the hot takes surrounding him, but I mean, Joey Bosa, there were criticisms of Joey Bosa when he came out that he'd already hit his ceiling, which was silly because he's 21 years old. Like, what human being has hit their ceiling in life at 21 years old? It's not how it works. I mean, you're going to grow athletically, you're going to grow physically, you're going to grow mentally, et cetera, et cetera. I just feel like we saw what we got from Joey Bosa, and we're seeing what we're getting from Joey Bosa, and it's all pro-level pass rush play, an ability to stop the run, a great underrated athlete, someone who is technically sound coming out of the gate. And Nick Bosa does all of that too. So to me, we're overthinking a little bit. You talk about his hand, like his hands are fantastic already. He does things where he can win, even if he doesn't necessarily win the athletic battle. He can utilize his techniques to get a victory there in the trenches and to get to the quarterback. He's sound against the run as well. And so from that perspective, I think we're sort of overlooking just how good he can be in terms of being a transcendent addition to a team as a pass rusher. I think he's the easy choice for the top pass rusher in this class.
All right, Brinson, let's close with adding to that Kyler Murray noise. I asked this on the radio yesterday. I thought your answer was really interesting. Give me the plausible scenarios for where Kyler Murray is going to be playing next year. What may take place with him at the draft?
Well, the easy layup, Bill, is that he goes to the Arizona Cardinals, number 1 overall, and then they trade Josh Rosen because Cliff Kingsbury made some offhand comment about Kyler Murray back in October before he ever dreamed of being the Arizona Cardinals coach and having the number 1 pick. I think I don't think it's more likely, but I think it's more likely than people believe. The scenario here is where the Cardinals actually realize that if they draft Kyler Murray and trade Josh Rosen, the value they will be getting as opposed to having Josh Rosen and getting Nick Bosa or Quinnen Williams is substantially lower. And therefore, they will go with one of the defensive players, one of the defensive linemen. I don't know who it'll be. I do know that, in theory, the odds on Quinnen Williams, there we go. That is very helpful. If you look at Quinnen Williams, he's 20-1 there. I think elsewhere you can actually see him at like 5-1. These odds are sort of tightening up a little bit. So I would take Quinnen Williams at 20-1. I'm just telling you, I think that is a good value pick. If you can bet on Quinnen Williams to be first overall, I think he's the type of prospect this team would love. And I do think, too, that the Arizona Cardinals have to win this year. As Brady Quinn said on the Pick Six podcast, daily. You can subscribe to it on iTunes. I host it. It's awesome. Josh Rosen's a great fit for the air raid system. You don't have to be a mobile quarterback to work in the air raid system. Cliff Kingsbury wasn't a mobile quarterback. And I think Josh Rosen can do a very good job if they improve the offensive line, improve the weapons around him. You could see a nice season from Josh Rosen. And if the Cardinals can win 6, 7, 8 games by improving their defense, which they've already done, adding Quinnen Williams, adding Nick Bosa, maybe this is a team, the problem is if you draft Kyler Murray and you win 2 or 3 games, everybody might get fired. And I think that's what the front office, that's what the coaching staff has to be concerned with here. And so my spidey sense says they're going to go in a different direction. And if that happens, maybe Kyler Murray goes 4 to the Raiders. Maybe somebody trades with the Jets to 3 to get him. Maybe he drops all the way to the Bengals at 11. I wouldn't rule out the possibility that Kyler Murray could slide a little bit on draft day.
Will Brinson, buddy, great stuff as always, man. Thanks for being on the show.
You got it, Bill. Anytime, man.
Good stuff by Brinson. He's right, by the way. Pick Six podcast is awesome. You should subscribe on iTunes. You can also find all that information. And Brinson on Twitter at Will Brinson. I can remember several years ago watching Kentucky play in Des Moines, Iowa in the early stages of the NCAA tournament and being wowed by Jamal Murray. Just absolutely wowed. Haven't seen that level of wow factor from him, not really, until last night when he, at least for the moment, single-handedly salvaged Denver's season in a remarkable comeback against the Spurs. We're going to get into Jamal Murray, his fourth quarter heroics. We'll go inside the numbers on a young guy who played really well on a very big stage against Greg Popovich and that Spurs team. It's coming up on Reiter's Block when we come back here in just a minute.
This is so important for all of our guys, but especially for Jamal. You know, he needs this. I needed to show him that I believed in him. That's powerful. If I pull him, does Coach really believe in me? Does he have my back?
He told me that he believes in me, cares about me, wants to see me succeed, and told me to stick with it.
There he is, the hero of the moment in Denver. Jamal Murray was so good last night, and we're going to give him some credit by going inside the numbers on what he just accomplished. We start at the number 21. Jamal Murray put the Nuggets on his back in that game to give Denver a Game 2 win over the Spurs, and a cover. Murray had 21 points, 21 in the fourth quarter, including 2 late threes. They were so clutch and contested, sealing a win for the Nuggets. Next up is the number 19. This was not an easy task for Murray and his teammates last night. At one point in that game, the Spurs led Denver by 19 points and were looking at a commanding 2-0 series lead heading back to San Antonio. Jamal Murray clearly had other thoughts and was able to bend the game, use those thoughts to bend the game to his will. How about 20.5? Through these 2 postseason games, Murray is also the Nuggets' second leading scorer at 20.5 points per game. That the 21 in the fourth quarter gave a major boost to that number. It really disappeared up until that point yesterday. Number 9 is next up on Inside the Numbers. It's been 9 seasons since the Denver Nuggets have won a playoff series. All the way back in 2008-09, they reached the Western Conference Finals with Carmelo Anthony and J.R. Smith, where they fell to Kobe and the Lakers. And finally, 30-1, as of right now, according to Westgate, the Nuggets are 30-1 to win the NBA Finals, something they have never done. Denver has actually never reached the finals. And by the way, not only Jamal Murray's so good, but come on, man. I don't mind Denver winning. It's the cover that kills me. Spurs +7, up 19. Just don't give up 26 points differential. They couldn't do it. It's very frustrating, and it brings me to Bill's theoretically big bet of the day. I mean, 3-2. Look, it's gambling. It's gambling. Feels like such a bad beat. That's 2 collapse covers in a row. I was on the Warriors, and I was on the Spurs. So my confidence is a little off, but I'm still gonna put an uncomfortably comfortable amount of money down on Houston tonight, -7. I know the narrative about Utah. They're a really good team. They underperform. They've got some playmakers, and they are the second best defense in the NBA. But they do a really bad job. They're in the bottom third in the league of guarding the three-point shot. Houston takes a historical and disproportionate number of their shots from the three-point line. Well more than 50% of their shots are three-point shots. And the real issue in the past for the Rockets has been they just run out of steam. They're very good early in the postseason. I think they roll tonight at home. Houston covers the 7. Please, Houston, don't get up 30 and then end up winning by 6, or I'm going to throw my computer out my window. Thank you very much for hanging out here on Reiter's Block. Appreciate you. Remember, we've got you covered tonight, as we always do, sports fans, with all the news. And tonight's news is the NFL schedule being released, the actual details and dates. We'll have you covered here 8:30 Eastern Time. The release comes out around 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We've got you a little CBS Sports HQ update for you coming up, and then Sportsline in 30 minutes. We're off tomorrow, draft show tomorrow on this time slot. So we'll see you on Friday, 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific on Reiter's Block.